Hello everyone and welcome to what is a different type of video from me. I will try and put up another gameplay episode, whether it be City Skylines or Rocket League, because I'm really loving Rocket League at the minute, alongside this one to quell those who don't like these types of videos. But we'll wait and see. I will try to. There has been some internet problems, some computer problems, so hopefully this goes through without any problems whatsoever. But I'm just hitting record and I'm just speaking for this one, which is great. You can hear the sound of my lovely vocal cords. But really, what this video is a way for me to document today, because as you can probably tell from the title of this video, I believe right now, as of this moment, this day is, so far, the most important day of my life. And the reason for that is, and I'll get into the reasons why, and I do hope that you do stay for the duration of this video. For those who are subscribed to me, or those who may think about subscribing to me, this isn't a sort of draw your life sort of video, because then we'd be here fucking days. But believe me, there's a lot to talk about. But this is really a culmination of events leading to today, that will hopefully set me on a path going forward into the future. And I wanted for myself, for my future self, to look back at this moment and know that I documented it. And the whole reason for this video is that as of midnight last night, I'm recording this on the 31st of July, 2014, for my future self. As of midnight last night on the 30th of August, my contract with the company I've worked for the past 3 years officially has come to an end. And for the first time in 3 years, what feels like a lifetime, I am unemployed. I am back to being a statistic. And I don't know what I'm feeling at the minute. Happy, sad, excited. But the future is my oyster, so to speak. And I wasn't fired. I wasn't doing anything wrong that made me have to leave. I left of my own free will. I do have to say that. And because I have left, I can officially state who it was I worked for. It was a retailer. It was a retailer called Argos. If you're from the UK, you will know what Argos is. Everyone knows what Argos is. Everyone owns an Argos catalogue, and I am an Argos elf. Only people from the UK will understand that. But yes, 3 years gone by, and it's over. And the whole point of this video is, as I say, to understand the reason for that. So I do hope you can stay. And to begin our little tale of the past, we have to go back more than 3 years. It was back in 2011. 2011. And that was because I was at sixth form, and to say I failed miserably is an understatement. I failed. I didn't fail miserably. That is an understatement, to being dramatic. But compared to the rest of my friends and compared to what I was expected, I failed miserably, take it that way. And sixth form college is just a different form of college to those outside the UK. And to say that I never stuck in and things like that is true. The reason for it was because I had failed my GCSE maths by 1 mark. By 1 mark. I know I will find that examiner and kill him or her one day, I'm sure, just for all of this. But yes, by 1 mark, and as a result, my timetable in sixth form was different to that of my friends. And whenever they had a free, I was doing my maths, and whenever I had a free, they were in lessons, and they were always side by side. And so what I used to do was, it makes me laugh looking back now, and if many of my friends watch this, they'll laugh as well, because they used to tell me off madly for it. I used to sometimes not go to maths, or I would just totally miss my lessons to then have their frees with them, and then I would just totally skive the rest of the days, mostly just so I could sit and talk to my friends. And if you think about that, it's terrible. I can't believe, looking back, the person I am now, and you'll understand the person I am by this video later, that I can't believe I've done that. So immature, yet at the same time I don't regret it. Don't regret it whatsoever, because I think that in those 2 years the friendships that I've made, especially with one person, my friend called Louise, blossomed. And if it wasn't for those 2 years, I probably wouldn't be friends with some of those people to this day, and with people like Louise for the rest of my life. So I'm very grateful for the decision I made, the immature decision. But as a result, I didn't fail, but I didn't get what I needed for university. And at the time, the teachers at the college, who were very pushy, and I didn't like the teachers, said you become a primary school teacher. I was told that for years. All the teachers used to push me into it. Even the heads of years and stuff like that. You'd be a great primary school teacher. And you know what? I'm glad I didn't do that. I'm glad I didn't get in, because I hate kids. At least I do now anyway. God, that's to do working at Argos and the whole toys and everything. Brats. But I digress. And at the time, I was absolutely devastated. Because, you build yourself up. Oh, I'm applying for university. This is it. This is the start. This is the future. Let's get on that horse and ride into the distance. And my horse never arrived. And it was sad, and it was a bit uncontrollable in terms of emotions. But I went back. All my friends went to university. So I was literally alone. I didn't know anyone. And yes, it's great to turn around and say that I excelled myself more than I ever had in my life at this point. But it only lasted a couple of months. So from the September to the December, I was doing better than I'd ever done before, and in the December I left. And the reason for that was because I have quite a temperamental personality. So if I believe in something, and I believe I'm right, and normally, without wanting to sound big-headed, I normally am right, because otherwise I wouldn't argue the point, I speak out. Maybe a bit too much. And in that circumstance, I came at loggerheads with my head teacher. I know, big boss man woman. Well, it was a woman. And I decided to leave. Weeks of arguing, literally arguing, took its toll, and I gave in, and I just decided to leave. And I was unemployed, and I was totally alone in that period. And it was a sort of flashback moment, because to understand my life at sixth form, we have to go back a bit earlier, and that was secondary school, and that will lead up to the point that this is all about. And that was at secondary school. I was that kid who was bullied, was teased, pushed to one side, didn't have friends, acquaintances at most. I would spend more time with my head of year, who I did class as a friend, actually, which I'm not afraid to say, because I learned a lot from that woman. I spent more time with her than anyone else, and that was throughout the entire 5 years of secondary school. And whilst it may seem like, oh God, he was such a loner, I was. And that was down to myself and others. I get socially embarrassed a lot, and especially back then. And I just didn't like to be around other people. And I found comfort being with an adult, someone who genuinely cared, someone who always took the time of the day. This relationship went into sixth form, because obviously she wasn't my head of year anymore at this point. I would then Skype some of my lessons to then go to her office and have cups of coffee with her. I mean, it wasn't until sixth form when I actually decided enough was enough, and I actually made friends towards the end of secondary school into sixth form. And things changed from that moment. I went being from that person who was teased and bullied. I've always been overweight, so I always used to get teased about my weight. I wouldn't dare do it now, because I'd knock them out. Was always quiet. Whenever you did hear me speak, it would always be when I went into a rage, or would have to do a storm off sort of dramatic exit. Nothing's really changed for those who know me. But during that time after sixth form, I was unemployed, and I didn't know what my direction was, because I obviously wasn't going to be a primary school teacher, and that's what everyone always told me I'd be. You'd be a great primary school teacher, and within 7 years, you'll be a headmaster. And I think it was that feeling of authority and being able to manage people that really appealed me to that. And I look back, like I say now, and I'm so glad that that decision didn't turn out the way it was. And I went on for 9 months as unemployed. And I became, like I am now, a statistic, a number. And it's so cliched when you hear people say, oh, I've applied to so many jobs, oh, I'm not hearing from anything, there's no jobs. It's becoming a classic now, because unemployment is still high, and whilst the economy does get better, and I'm one of those who do believe that the economy is getting better and we are stronger than where we began back in 2008 to 2010, back then in 2011 this was at the height almost of the UK recession. The Conservatives had just gotten into power in the government for the UK with the coalition, and things were tough, and things to this day are still tough, but not as much as I believe. But that's getting into politics, which I do not want to get into, because God knows I have several arguments in this house over politics. But at that time I come from an area of England from the northeast, which statistically and traditionally is working class, and with that came probably the highest unemployment in the country in this area. And so for someone who didn't really have very good grades, times were tough, and I became part of that cliche because it was absolutely true. I applied for God knows how many countless jobs, I applied for God knows how many interviews, and I never got any. And this went on for 9 months, and across that 9 months I got out of God knows how many applications 2 interviews. One, I totally messed up because I made seal noises because I didn't really get the question. So do you know when your mind starts going away from your mouth, so you're thinking whilst you're speaking? Well, I started making random words to the point where the words started to go "Arr!" So literally I was making seal noises, and that was for a government agency. Can you I look back now, and half of this just I can't believe happened. And then the second place which offered me an interview was Argos. And the reason why I'm making this video is a way for me to not only document myself, my thoughts, but also as a way to tell the people I worked with my feelings of the place. And that's not a negative thing, by the way, because I know some of them do watch these videos. Hello. Again, I was always told that I was quiet out of the group, I was reserved, but I was still hired. And to know that someone saw something in you is a great feeling. And it's a feeling I never really had, especially after 9 months of uncertainty, of unknown. I mean, my own political beliefs probably attributed to it, but I went on unemployment benefit and I only received 2 payments. Because each time I left the dole office, I felt almost physically sick that I was taking money off another person, and whilst it was my right to have that money, I decided to not do it. So I was glad when I was offered an interview and then ultimately the job with Argos. And across the 3 years that followed, literally, I boomed, I blossomed. You can ask anyone I know, anyone I worked with. I am a different person now to what I was 3 years ago. Doing this right now, or doing YouTube in general, would be my idea of hell. I can't stand the look of my face. I can't stand the sound of my voice. So when I first started this, really, I was petrified. And I was petrified starting this video today. But really, it's about growing some balls and just doing what your gut instinct tells you. And that came from working with the company I did. I was being forced into a position that I was uncomfortable with, which then in turn led me to develop myself in terms of skills as a person, as an individual, into the man that I've become today, who can be outspoken at times, but for the right reasons, I always believe, who isn't afraid to say what he says and is very confident, whereas back in secondary school especially, putting up my hand in class would induce a panic attack almost. And that is true. I was petrified. My idea of hell was getting up in front of people or speaking in front of people, unless it was something I wanted to do. And I sometimes came at loggerheads with teachers over that. And I'm glad I went through it, because to see the difference of me then as there is now is just astonishing. And I'm not just saying that for dramatic effect, it's true. I am a different person to what I was 3 years ago. A shadow of myself was then to the person I am now, and I couldn't be any more happier. And within about a couple of months of work on there, I decided that, is it maybe time to move on, or is this definitely a place that I can see myself working at for a long period of time? And so I decided to go for an open day at Gateshead College with a friend. I was invited along with this friend, Melissa, who said that there was an administration course going on at the college and we should go and have a look. And because some people in my family work in offices and stuff like that, I knew the things you had to do. So I said, alright then, okay, let's get out of this place and let's go and have a look. And so we did. And I was like, I don't really want to do this, but I may have to. And as we were leaving the college, like physically, and this is good honest true, as we were leaving the college doors, she turned around and she went, oh look there, have you seen that gaming thing, that gaming desk? I was like, oh, alright, so why don't you go and have a look? I said, no, it's I don't think that's necessary. She goes, why don't you go and talk to them? I've got to go and see someone about whatever it was she was looking at. And why don't you go and look over there? I thought, no, there's no point, because that's something I'll never be able to do. And the reason why this is God's honest truth is because when I was in secondary school and when I was talking to the careers advisor, he would say, oh, what's your dream? What is it you would like to be? And I would turn around and say, I would love to make video games. It's something I've always wanted to do. Video games have been my life. They have been that place where I've escaped from and escaped to, more or less. You know, when times are hard emotionally, I turned, and still do, to video games. And they've been the biggest treasure of my life, and many people will see that as sad and nerdy, but quite frankly, I don't give a flying fuck. And when I spoke to the careers advisor, he turned around and said, look, you're terrible at maths and you're terrible at physics, so gaming is something you will never stand a cat and hell's chance doing. But because I understood that I wasn't good at those things, and by the way, his physics thing was wrong because you don't need that. Yes, maybe maths. I understood it and I accepted it. Well, I am bad at maths, I am bad at physics, and he obviously knows what he's talking about, so it's time to pursue something else. It's sort of like that thing you always hear actors say, or people who want to act. I dream of being on the stage, I dream of seeing lights and being in front of cameras. But obviously, the competition is incredibly hard and the majority of people won't get there. And it becomes a dream that they wish they could get, but they know in their heart they won't. And that was me, but for video game design. And so I went over to this desk at the college just to really chat and see what was going on. And it was with a lecturer called Toby. And I explained, I was always told I'd never be able to do this. I was just really wanting to talk about games. And he said, well, I'm sorry to have to tell you this, but that careers advisor gave you all the wrong information. Yes, you do need maths, but we prefer it, as do many other educational establishments. They prefer you to be on a level playing field. They don't like it if you know or have already learned certain things, because then it makes it harder to teach people. We prefer it if you didn't know it. And it was like a light bulb had gone off. And he took me around a tour of the studio. At the time, it was one big, massive studio. Since then, it was divided into separate rooms. And he said, would you like to apply? I said, I'll think about it. This is the time as I'd only just started Argos, so my confidence hadn't really came out. And a couple of weeks had passed, and I said, what are you doing? This is a chance you've been waiting for. Take it. And the family didn't want me to do it. They were very opposed to it. I screwed up sixth form. I was in Argos, the retailer, and they wanted me to get a full-time job. I was only working part-time, a couple of hours a week, and said there's absolutely no way you're going back to college, no way, because you'll fail it again. And so, actually, because I live with my grandparents, you see, it was them who said that, and I do have to be honest, that is what they said. I actually spoke to my mum, who I don't live with, and she turned around and said the same thing. This is something you should do. You're a fool to give it up. Why would you? This should be the thing you're doing. And to have someone, for someone you don't live with, someone you're not particularly close to, say that and have confidence in you was great. And that day, I phoned up the college and said I'd like to apply, and the woman at the end of the phone turned around and said, I'm sorry, but you've missed the deadline date by a couple of days. Well, I was devastated. And she turned around and said, but of course, you could always apply next year when it comes around again. And I said, alright then, that's the plan. And I stopped being upset, and I immediately instigated the plan. I've got a year to wait. So that's when I decide either to stick to the idea of going to the college, trying to work my way up at Argos, or find a new path altogether, because a year's a long time. And in a way, it's a short time as well, because it makes you have to come up with a decision straight away. You don't have long left, so make the decision. And the year came and went. I had started to work my way up, not in terms of the store, but in terms of the company. I started to get in one area I took over my team leader in. And so the moment came, and I decided to go to the college. And across the year that I'd done games design, I was doing quite well. But in terms of work, things started to rise as well. Hours, as well as certain commitments started to come in. I started to gain heights in this area of the company I was working in. And I had to decide, do I continue the college or do I leave the company? I have to be dedicated to one or the other. I can't do both. And at the end of the first year, after God knows how many times of thinking I'm going to quit one, I'm going to quit the other, I got the grades from the first year, and I got a distinction star distinction because it was a BTEC course. So like imagine A, B, C, D, this goes distinction, merit, pass, fail. And I got distinction star distinction, which one can only assume was one of the highest grades on the course that people got, because it was quite hard to get that. And in that moment I said, because I've got those grades, I'm going to at least finish the 2-year course. So I stayed, and we got up to the point of last month, where I left the college. And I decided, I'll apply for university and things, and we'll see how it goes and whatnot. And I still was really, really struggling to decide, do I continue on this path? Do I stay with the company where I was, like I say, gaining new heights? But unfortunately, when it came to the company, I never received the training I always asked for. I was rising in the company, but not rising in the store. And to my belief to this day, and I can say this openly, publicly, I do believe I could have been a team leader. And I wasn't given that opportunity to prove myself, I think. And so, as a result, I decided to stop. And it all came to a head when I got my results for the course as a whole. And that was that I got distinction star, distinction star, distinction. And literally the next day I handed my notice in. And it was sad, but I was so pleased to have done it. Because, you know, I'm doing the thing that I've always wanted to do, that I'm obviously good at doing, more or less. And the future is my oyster, as I said at the beginning. But I'm entering that space on this day, which leads me to today, because I finished my final shift yesterday. My contract was terminated midnight last night. I am no longer getting paid. I have become another unemployed statistic until next month. And yes, it's quite scary. It's quite weird to think I'm back at the exact same place I was back in 2011. Unemployed, uncertain of the future. But only this time I know that I'm a totally different person with a plan, who knows what he's going to do. And yeah, it's scary, but it's exciting at the same time. And I can't deny that at all. I'm just so proud to be able to say I got to this moment in time. Because as it stands, you know, it comes down to the idea of following your gut instinct. I don't necessarily believe in fate. I don't believe we all have a predestined path and things like that. Not that I want to get too philosophical. But when I look back and I see all the unlucky things that happened in the past that led to the lucky things happening to me now, it makes you wonder. It does, and I don't consider myself a religious person or whatever, but, you know, maybe I was meant to feel sixth form, and I do believe that working with Argos has changed my life for the rest of my life. I never want to go back to that person I used to be, and maybe it was meant to be that way. Because then, failing sixth form, being unemployed, I learnt lessons being unemployed. Then working for Argos, learnt me God knows how many life lessons. Then to have the confidence to go back to college with people I never met before in my life, to do well at that by putting in hard work and determination, to the point where I can leave openly the safest thing I've ever been in, my work, where I was probably guaranteed a good future in terms of job prospects and whatnot, to the point where now I'm going to university next month. I've been accepted. I'm going to Huddersfield University. And yeah, it's not Oxford or Cambridge, but it's somewhere I want to go. It's somewhere I want to be. It's somewhere where I just cannot wait to go. I wish it was tomorrow. But it's so satisfying to know that gone is the boy who was teased, and gone is the boy who was pushed around and looked down upon, and gone is the boy who was always told, you won't be able to do this. Well, as it stands now, I'm proving every single person wrong. Every single one of them wrong. And I mean that. Because right now, I feel like I could rule the world.